So I quit VTubing, but I'm pulling this out of the archives just so there's like something going on in the corner. But anyways, this is just a tutorial on how I made these owls. I don't go into detail on like the rigging, but like a little bit on the texture, a little bit on the modeling. So I hope it helps someone. And also, if you don't want to hear my voice or like the presentation's weird, you can just mute it, put your music on, and I did subtitle like portions of the video, so that should still help. And just fair warning, I am a noob at Blender, so there might be some issues or like I overlooked something, or you might be you might see me doing something really inefficient. So just a heads up. And then for a video on like how I import and export these into like the specific game, which is impressive title, I might make that separate or like another tutorial or something. I don't think there's a lot of demand for it. I just want to upload this because I recorded the process. Might as well. Maybe you'll learn something. The version of Blender I use is actually I don't know. I think it's the latest version. I'll put a subtitle on to see what it is because like I open it, it's Blender 3, but something else when I open it. And then the theme that I use, I'll put that in the description too. It's like strawberry milk or something. I don't know. But I do know the gray blender that I use, that's 2.8. So starting off, like the night before, I sketched out like what I thought my model was gonna look like. I mean, it's still pretty accurate. Like I just planned out the feather planes. So you see those like red boxes there, that's the feather planes. I planned out like the two variations I was gonna make. There's also the snowy owl that I made too, but I didn't have a sketch for that, but I kind of, wing it, literally wing it. Um, so those are the two variations. No, it was just quickly sketched out. The thing is, mostly to pay attention to is you have to do a side profile and maybe a front view, and it's just to help guide what your model looks like. You can also use like people use like pictures of animals, like take from a side view. I just draw my own because I don't I don't know. I had like a vision for the owl, like I wanted it to stand a certain way or like I was really picky with it. And usually when they photograph them, like the owls, their feathers are covering it up and whatever. So that's what this sketch is. It's just basically concept art. And the thing is, the concept art doesn't have to be exact. Like when modeling, you do go off script. So go to the next one. And this was also done the night before. Like I just kind of planned out the texture. This isn't like the book you have to follow. This is just, plan out the texture, make sure you know where your things are going, like look at that concept art and think about like what categories of feathers you have. And you'll see that I kind of went off script when I started doing the texture itself and I got the model and everything. So I'll show that on the next slide. And here you see the sketch, like the sketched out texture and the finished texture, like they're almost completely different. I did draw over the sketch and then I just didn't remove it in the final because I'm like, who cares? Like the parts that are transparent, they're transparent where they need to be. Okay. Um, and then I'll show the UV. The UV, there's some clipping issues, like the foot in the corner, bottom left, it clips, but whatever. I'm still new to UVs, so it's not like the perfect unwrap, but it makes sense to me. It's not too chaotic. And you can see like the big planes in like the top right. That's where the feathers are and everything. And then the bottom left is the body, legs, more feathers, wings, whatever. So I think that having the sketch helps with organizing the UVs when it comes time to unwrap. And you kind of have to have like an idea for what the UVs might look like when you unwrap them. But as you can see, like I moved the thigh over from where it should be. So you just kind of do whatever. And I will show the part where I'm unwrapping a little bit. Okay, so on to the modeling itself. I inserted a model first from like the game, just so I knew what direction it was pointing, because previously I put something in the wrong direction and it was a pain to fix and whatever. So for the first part, like I said here, I just use 4.3. You use anything, the latest version. I don't think there's any issues with importing models or, putting them in 2.8. And then I tilted a cube, and then I put that reference that we drew last night in the background. I put like the hotkeys in the video. I don't know the hotkeys off the top of my head. It's been a while since I modeled. Uh, yep. Just this is the worst voiceover ever. But, it just says the subtitles, man. Edit mode, select vertices, whatever. And yeah, you have to try to make these even. It doesn't have to be crazy. You just make sure the planes line up. You might end up with a lot of... Oh, I put that in the subtitle. Okay. This is really bad. All right. I like wrote everything. I wrote everything there is to say. Yeah, turn on clipping. Boom. Yeah, you go inside and then you select the planes to delete them. This takes a little bit, and you just have to make sure you get every single plane, or else you have like weird issues when you're modeling. And also the video on the side, that was just my friend that I was teaching at the same time. So it was kind of nice because then I went on a slower pace so I could record this little tutorial and I tried to make things clear. Sculpting, it doesn't matter if it deforms it a little bit off your reference. Like, it's just smoothing it out. You can always fix it later on too. Like sometimes you throw the texture on and they're like, fix this here, but this is inset and then extruding. Make sure you have 4 faces. And make sure you keep track of your 4 faces too. This one I just did loop cuts, but like for legs, it's kind of weird. Like not on this creature, not on this owl, but on other animals, it's kind of hard to keep track of the legs. So make sure you keep track of those faces. So sometimes you can't have them like selected all the time. But in my mind, mentally, I'm just trying to keep track of where those 4 are so that I'm extruding it right. Because otherwise, you might end up with wacky UVs or whatever, or it's just a little confusing. And then you can see I'm just like editing the lines and the seams. Like sometimes you can't really sculpt it the way you want it, so you have to like do precision editing in edit mode. A big thing is, make sure there's enough space between the legs. The inset should allow you to move it during animation. And that's the other thing too with the legs. Like it's very, you have to keep switching your camera modes a little bit just to make sure it's not going off to the side or something. Here's my toes. It's terrible toes. These took a long time. I was like, what do I do with these? Like, I was gonna subdivide them, and then I think I ended up beveling them and then distorting them from there. Yeah, I beveled and then I unsubdivided. I mean, like, I would do more detailed toes if it was like a player model or something, but this is just some animal, so it was fine. Did its job. But the thing is too, I had to plan that the legs would be going out in an attack animation and the toes you could move them. And then here's the wings, just shaping them a bit. The wings, it was like difficult because the main wing has to be thick, but the feathers also have to be like really thin. And it's hard to kind of blend those together, but I figured it out. And then the face, I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of new to Blender. Like, I wasn't sure what to do with the face. And like I said before, make sure you're like switching between sculpt mode, edit mode. Like, plus there's a bunch of different tools in sculpt mode as well. And then here's me working on the UVs already. Project from view. Actually, sometimes Smart UV Project is your friend, but sometimes it doesn't work, so then you have to do project from view and then like do a bunch of stuff. But usually if you're doing a low poly model and you start with the plane method, it should work out well. Just go around the legs first. Like go around where you did insets. Don't include those because the Smart UV Project will just get so confused. Like you have to do the inset areas kind of separate. But you can see where we're using that like sketch that we made, a little texture, and we're putting everything where we think it should be. So we got the head here. The head, like we do the UV here, but then we end up, I think we redo it or no. Yeah, we redo the UV at some point. We keep trying to repaint the face later on. So just know it's not like an end all be all if you have like a weird UV, especially for something like the face where we had to add more vertices or whatever. And like I said in the subtitles here, that was texture paint that I'm talking about. And to do texture paint, you need a material for the thing. Like you have to set the texture paint into a material. I forgot how it works exactly, but there's tutorials too. I remember I was really frustrated because I tried to texture paint and then it wouldn't work. Oh, here's the worst part, the leg. This was terrible. I hate doing the legs every time. Because, you're like, okay, smart UV project, and it's just like this big tangled mass. Like right there, like, so then, it got to project from view. And I usually do like one side with project from view, because otherwise it curls in on itself. So you can see me removing the faces there. And then I'm like, project from view. And then, watch me, I zoom in, and then I have to unwrap every single one, like, get it out. In the legs, I don't really care if they're all the same plain size or not. I just want them, textured. Like, nobody's really looking at the inside of the legs. And then here I am selecting the inside. I try to stitch it to what I had. It doesn't work. So then I have to go a little bit slower. So what am I doing here? Oh, I see. Wait. No, that doesn't work either. Like, you can see this takes a long time. It's a lot of trial and error. Alright, but then I figured out, like, I do this. I think that was Smart UV Project. And then I stitch that together. And then I take the other side and stitch that together. You have to deselect the other side, or else Blender stitches the other side and then it's inverted on itself. It's weird. So here I'm sketching the face texture paint. That's, that's that. But you'll see in the process where I'm texturing it, I kind of go back and forth. Like this part's really sped up. I think it's like sped up 16 times. So here I am smoothing it out and adding more faces. The owl is like really distorted. What I'm trying to do here is make sure it has a good side view and a good front view because I don't want it looking, derpy from the side or weird from the front. I wanted it to look like a real owl. Or not like exactly a real owl, but like a decent low poly owl. So here you see I start over. I just paint it again. And then try to see I'm doing the side view and then the front view looks goofy. So I have to adjust it. So I'm doing the front view and then side view, checking, and side view looks weird. It's a lot. And then I'm like, okay, re-UV. Like I put in a new UV now because I think the sides were just, or what, the UV areas I was stitching, I don't know what they're called, planes. They weren't they weren't they just weren't ideal for texturing. And this one's not perfect, but it was better than what I was working with. And then you can see I'm just kind of lowering the owl. I like to use snake hook, and then there's like one sculpt tool, I think it's called like edge sculpt or something, and you can sculpt the outline of your model, which is really helpful. Kind of adjusting the seams. I think the seams still ended up bad on the owl head, but whatever. Making the beak. The beak, like, I don't like making a lot of new textures, so I just put it in the middle of the face. And here you see it's a little bit more sculpting, trying to get the right silhouette. I had to be mindful too, because, oh yeah, here I'm lowering the legs a bit. I made the legs too long, but I had to be mindful too, because owls, like the great horned owl, has a weird silhouette, because you see the ears, but you have to be mindful of like what the face looks like. Here's some more painting. The thing about the painting is that it's not in the final version. I just do it for the texture so that when I'm actually like doing the real texture where I photo bash a little bit, I know where to put everything. Like I know where things line up. So that's I'm painting like the features that stand out to me. So like the line on the face or whatever. And you saw I touched up on the toes a little bit. And then here I'm making the claws. They're just copy and pasted beaks. One thing about Blender, it's kind of weird. Sometimes you copy and paste something and then you're in the wrong mode or something. So then it's all one part and it's just, I don't know. So I go back and forth with that. And I will say, I do use my concept art still, but I do use like real owl pictures, as you can see. And then I started watching Guardians of Gahul. Pixelated that an ad showed up and it was taking half my screen. I didn't even notice it. I was too locked in. But here you see a little bit more sculpting. Add more toes, claws. And the thing is too, you have to add a mirror modifier on all these so that it's symmetrical on both sides. If you don't, well, I mean, you notice it. I think I did a couple claws where I didn't have the mirror modifier on, and I was like, darn it, and I gotta redo it. Sometimes you don't have to. It's like you have to move it from where you spawn it in. Spawn it? I don't know. You have to move it in edit mode. You can't move it in object mode or else the mirror gets messed up. And here I'm doing the ears. So these are just planes. And then I go in texture paint and I paint them. And with the mirror modifier, automatically, you know, they're symmetrically textured. Here's more planes. This is doing the cheek. Or not the cheek, but like, you know, the mouth fluff. So I did this a little bit. And then, you know, I'm texturing it. You see it doesn't really line up. And I kind of changed my mind of where I wanted it. So then I just kind of draw the fluff in on texture paint, refine it in Krita. This is really lagging. I don't know. I don't know why it's going 2 frames per second. Oh my goodness. All right. So moving on to the feathers. So here you can see the plane a little bit more clear. And so like what I was writing here is that the leg feathers, those are symmetrical on both sides, so it's just one plane. And then for the wing feathers, because I want top and bottom textures for the wings, they're very flat cubes. Very flat cubes with a lot of division so that they can warp during animation. So that's the leg fluff. The leg fluff still needs some division so that it can warp because, you know, the owl's going to move its legs to do an attack animation and whatnot. And here you see texturing it, texture paint. And like I said, this isn't the final texture. We're just sketching it out and then refining it in Krita. And to explain here what I said in the subtitles, you keep things as separate models for now, and then at the end you join them into one model because that makes it a lot easier to texture. The thing is, I think Blender doesn't let you join things unless they're the same material or the same texture. I think they could be different materials, but they have to be the same texture. And as you can see here, like what I wrote is it glitches out if they're too flat, but I like to push my luck and be like, well, I can texture it right in Krita, and then maybe an animation won't clip through. I think the tail did clip through, and I had to adjust it a little bit, but it wasn't terrible. And later on during animation, the fluff did kind of separate, so I had to weight paint it. I had to weight paint it on the great horned owl and then the snowy owl separately because those were the only ones with the chest fluff. And here's me doing it in Krita, so I have like a stroke around the wingtips, and it's basically just laying a texture in to clip it. And then you can see later on that I do, not yet, but I zoom in a little bit. Okay, I zoom in and I make a little nick there. And then what I do is I duplicate it and move it over. And the other side of the UV is symmetrical, like, because it did project from view and it's like both sides. And then, well, I skipped to the end game, but the other, that just helps line it up. If you do a nick and then you erase it, so then they're pretty almost symmetrical. Like you can see the owl in game. You can see the owl in game. There's a little bit where the wings clip, and you can see the feathers above, but for our intents and purposes, it worked. So midway through the video, I felt like I didn't give y'all like a good view of how the feather planes worked. Like every part that's separate on the model, right? So here's the tail. Let me open these edit mode, just so you can see. These are the vertices, and as you can see, it's the mirror modifier. So this is the version I have before I apply all the modifiers and merge everything to one mesh. And essentially I made this version because, you know, just to make the barn owl and snowy owl bases, to give you an idea. So those are all made of separate parts. And then it lets me, you know, get rid of this. Get rid of this if I wanted to, you know, sculpt a little bit, instead of having to work with something all joined into one mesh. And I'll show you what the feathers look like. So here's the feathers. Let me go in edit mode just to show you what the planes look like. Maybe wireframe? I still kind of can't see it, but they're basically wedged into the mesh. And if we go down here, we can see this is the original wing base, and then there's the feathers. So they're a bit laid on top. And they don't align perfectly with the texture, but it's enough where, you know, it gets a job done. I mean, this isn't like a high-end game. This is just kind of something made as a hobby. And here we can see the old face. I mentioned it later on in the video too. But let me show you what each part of the wing. So we got that part, the wingtip. We have this part goes under the wing. Or no, that's not the underwing part, but the whole wing, the top and bottom, are 3 different planes. And then during animation, it makes it look fluid because they're all moving. And then this part here is added to give dimension. This is another wing plane. And so you can see it gives dimension. Well, technically, this here is a plane, and then all of these are cubes up top, because you see top texture and then bottom texture are different. And the chest, this is just one plane. Ears, we said one plane. Beard, one plane. Legs, one plane. And then tail is 2 planes. See the top, bottom texture different. And the little fluff around the tail, because I thought, you know, why not? A little extra touch. But yeah, so that's the wings. I'm trying to see if there's anything else of note here. I would say that when you're texturing, and I'll show you this real quick. When you're texturing, you notice how there's like some thick themes. Can't speak. Some thick seams here. What we do is we go into texture paint, right? And then they have this tool called smear. And maybe this is just like really, you know, cheap. Like there's probably better texturing programs out there than just what I do in Blender. But normally I get my finished texture, and sometimes I'll work on a texture and then do this, like where I edit the seams, and then I'll save the texture from Blender where I edited the seams, and then I'll edit in Krita and go back and forth between the 2 programs. But this helps, you know, make things look a little bit more uniform. I'm not sure. Yeah, these are symmetrical. I just didn't get that part. But yeah, and that's that. I forgot to explain that at one part in the video. But anyways, I hope that helps to kind of visualize what this model is. So I just want to do that extra tidbit. Thank you. And there's the owl flying in game. And I didn't record the rigging process with it, or like the finished version. This is like an alternate model, but here's the skeleton, and here I'm trying to fix some things with it because the wings are so prone to clipping. So what I do is I select both sides. You see me selecting a side, testing it out. Select both sides of like the feather planes, and then I just move down a tiny smidge. And then here I am playing the animation. I can't tell what exactly was annoying me. Like I did this a bunch with all the different owl models. But it fixes the feathers, and then here's me previewing it in game again. I think it fixed it. I'm not sure. And I'll show the great horned owl in a little bit. This is just the barn owl. Yep, that's more adjustment. So yeah, essentially the feathers are just planes. And I tried adjusting the weight painting on the feathers. Like this was done with automatic weights, but it didn't really help. And then here's the early texture. Like you can see it's still painted from like, I think it's partially painted and then partially photo bashed, but the face is still painted. And then I went in and finally photo bashed the face in the final. and here he is. So I kind of skipped around, like, it was just kind of going over the basics, like, I didn't record the whole process. And then as a treat, here's all the little owls, like, flying around in the proper video I took in-game. An issue was when I was trying to export it, like, I animated them in 4.3 or whatever my Blender is, and then I FBX, you know, put it in 2.8. But the issue is that I have to really compress the keyframes to get it to work in the game. So the wing animations are missing some frames, so they're kind of weird, but I think it turned out okay, so I'm pretty happy with it.